everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today in our product preview for Content Manager. Just to kick things off, I will introduce myself as well as Jeff, who's joining. So for some of the new faces on the line, my name is Allie Sikowitz. I'm the VP of Customer Success here at Builtin. What that means is I manage the team of CSMs and AMs that work with each of you. So ideally, I'm in market meeting you all in person, but today we get to do it virtually. So very nice to speak with you all, and I'll hand it over to Jeff to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Hurd, and I'm a senior product manager at Builtin. Been here over a year and a half, and I focus on our B2B products. So all of the great Builtin products that you all interface with, such as company profiles and content manager. Not only was I an avid Builtin fan and visitor prior to working at Builtin, I previously worked in product at several startups in Chicago and was at Pluralsight for 5 years as we built out content products there, focusing on authoring and publishing edtech content, much of which overlaps nicely here. And I was able to bring my experience to Builtin to build out Content Manager, focusing on making it as easy as possible for our partners to publish high quality content on our platform.
Thanks, Jeff. So just a quick housekeeping for everyone. Some had actually submitted questions ahead of time, so at the end we will be covering those. But if you have questions, you can add them to the Q&A feature, and we'll try to get to them at the end of time. We'll also be sending you this recording. So for any reason someone has to jump off, we will be sharing this after the event for you to refer back. Okay, without further ado, we'll get started. So today what we'll be talking about is Content Manager. So we'll be walking you through a demo of the product. But before we do that, we thought it'd be helpful just to discuss the importance of content, your employer brand overall, and then more specifically, how it plays an actual part in Builtin's experience. We'll also give you some backstory, and Jeff will run this in regards to how Content Manager came to be. And at the end, we'll do our Q&A and finish with a sneak peek of what some future products or features rather within Content Manager will be coming. So just actually starting with why content. So I thought it'd be helpful just to give a lot of you on the call are experts in regards to how you've leveraged your brand on Builtin and other platforms. But I do want to make sure we really cover what we from Builtin see the value of content. And as you can see here, they really fall into 4 buckets: employer branding, credibility, a 360 view, and strong hiring. I wanted to just call out a few things that I think would be most relevant in terms of data points and recommendations for each of you. So from the first, employer branding, content helps effectively tell your brand story. Today, content more than ever is critical to telling your brand story, so much so that 84% of job seekers say their company's reputation is an important part of their decision to apply to an open position. So how do we make sure that we do that at the forefront in every part of their experience? The second part of credibility, which I want to share a few different things here, is also a really big part in leveraging both leaders as well as employees to build credibility of yourself as an employer. So not only does it give you the ability to tap various members of your team, but ultimately it gives a candidate a well-rounded, authentic look at your company. So a few best practices I wanted to share here that also came up in Q&A before is we do recommend highlighting people that are specific to the departments you're growing most in. Additionally, varying those levels of who you're interviewing from leadership through more peers, so that way the individuals you're trying to attract can really see some stories that are relevant to what they personally would like to see in their own development. And lastly, always making sure that as many individuals are focused on attracting a diverse workforce, pick diverse individuals that can make sure that it really speaks to what your company is doing to be an inclusive environment and give that individual an idea of what it really means to work for your company. The one other comment I wanted to make on the first objection I hear from a lot of our customers when they decide to pick people is they get a little scared that as soon as they highlight someone, they're going to get poached by another company. And I hate to break it to you all, but we're in a state of age that most of you probably have also seen for yourselves, that regardless of if you showcase them or not, people are getting 16 average in-mails or inbounds in some way every week. So you hiding them is really not going to work. And so instead, what we hear from a lot of our customers, and especially hiring managers, is you build a ton of credibility and trust and retention with the employees that you showcase. And it really does pay dividends. So if that is an objection, happy to chat with you and with our team offline, but I would steer you very much on showcasing them so they feel that value as well. And then lastly, of course, when you are doing this, it should help in the quality, and that talks into stronger hiring. If you're not yet a partner of Builtin, the biggest thing we hear is that quality is the most important part of how Builtin can help. Looking for like-minded individuals that truly align with their value. The best way you can do that is be very upfront with what your value prop is and who you're looking for, so you can find better quality. So moving on, what it actually means from the numbers. So I thought these would be two stats that would be really helpful for everyone in regards to how content works. On average, with the addition of paid content on Builtin's customers result in 47 more job views, as well as 32 more applies with the addition of paid content. So I know one of the biggest disconnects or struggles a lot of our customers have is how do you actually measure that in terms of impact from the investment standpoint. So I thought this quote below from one of our customers was a really good example of how you can really quantify value of paid content in a fixed time and how it can attribute towards talent pipeline. So we'll give you 1 second to read through that quote. And then we can move on to talk about specifically what this means on our site and give you some insights there. So now we've discussed the importance of content, and customers will typically then ask, how does Builtin Users actually engage with your platform and with paid content? So this is one of the most updated slides that we've been sharing with all of our customers. And if you have any questions, your AM or CSM can share more details of this. But really what our research shows is these are the 4 different types of users that interact with Builtin in these 4 capacities. So the 4 are the loyalist, the seeker, the validator, and the browser. And so I'm going to stay on this slide here for a second and just kind of frame of reference for each of you what these different things mean. When you think of Builtin, some of you think of paid content, some of you think of news, some of you think of the job board. So really to compartmentalize this, the loyalist, I would think of this for all of you. We all on our phones have different apps or websites that we go on very frequently. So whether that be Reddit, Medium, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. For myself, I would call it Redfin as something that I'm on every day. So these are not active seekers. They are individuals that are engaging with Builtin for professional development, for news, for things within the tech sector. And the importance of this is just like any other type of buying experience that you have, it is really important that your brain is in front of those eyes in this stage. So that way, when they are ready and they are a little bit warmer to making a move, your brand is already familiar with them. It's a very big bucket of our users. And you'll see in terms of an example for our customers, how we attribute that is we can share with you how many of your ultimate hires post hiring them fell into that bucket. The second is the seeker, which definitely think more of like a true buyer. They are actively seeking out employers. They are filtering on our company's page around perks that companies have, or size of company, or industry, benefits, things of that nature. And lastly, as it relates to the 3 in the top, the validator, which as many of you know, it is extremely competitive and people are asking for more money than they ever have. There's a lot of different value props that other companies are asking for. So it is critical that when they have already applied or in the process, that they can continue to validate you, which is a really big part of how our users interact with your profile and content on our site. And the very last is our browser, which are individuals that are not logged in. So all of you are familiar. There's a lot of other platforms out there that you force login to be able to see anything. Our stance is not to do that. And so that's a benefit for you all, that they can read about you without us having to collect too much information that they lose interest. So this will be how you can continue to expect from Builtin that we attribute value, and in turn, how you can think of where you should be positioning content. So if we move on, this is the first one. And the only thing I was just going to mention on the top is, again, this is the loyalist who is not actively seeking a role. The fact I just wanted to share here is 69% of job seekers are more likely to apply for a job if the company maintains its brand and digital presence. And so again, while I know that can be hard sometimes to defend it with a finance leader or to get approval for, it is fact that those brands need to have familiarity before they're going to be ready to take action. And then the next type of user that we have discussed is our seeker. And so this really gets into where we start to lead in, and I'll turn it over to Jeff here in a moment, on paid content. So for individuals that are actively ready to start looking, whether more in the passive or more aggressively, this is where paid content's really going to kick in. So that way, when someone is looking at the best companies to hire, the best companies hiring right now, rather, or best companies that are offering certain benefits or different development programs, this will really help to make sure that this journey of reading content to then translating to your profile, jobs, and apply is truly that largest journey that we see. As you all know, you also want to make sure you're checking your ATS, your careers page for attribution, as someone might get distracted in one of these stages and ultimately come in a different way. But that end goal is to make sure that that content's at the forefront, however they get to you. That's a great thing regardless of if it's through a built-in. And then the last one is the validator. So I wanted to share with you, this again shows that when the user's actually already applied, that they're coming back to reference you on Builtin, and specifically looking at your perks, your culture, as well as your articles. And so 64% of candidates research companies online after receiving a job offer. 37% have said that they would look at another offer if they couldn't find enough information on that employer. And so we'll talk about some recommendations there of how you can optimize that. But content is by far the first thing we hear from our customers that interviewees will reference in the process. And then also is the reason why some people accept their offer. And so there's a lot of value there as it relates to validating their decision. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Jeff, the purpose of why we actually created Content Manager. Again, Content Manager houses all of our paid content products. And so I'll turn that over to Jeff.
Thanks, Allie. So that confirms what we know about content and employer branding. It's essential to your strategy in so many ways, and that's why we built Content Manager. Content Manager simplifies the process so it's easy for you to get involved in highly engaging content on our platform, attract the loyalists, seekers, and validators that Allie mentioned, and ultimately hire the people you need to take your team further. More specifically, Content Manager gives your team more transparency regarding upcoming article opportunities, so you have plenty of time to decide what content is best for your employer branding strategy. You can also handle all communication with our team and your internal experts about article opportunities, interviewees, and deadlines right within Content Manager. And lastly, it's free. So this tool is an added feature for our premium and above partners. The reason being that content is really an essential part of those partner packages. So I'm going to share my screen and do a live demo of Content Manager. And I'm going to go through a comprehensive overview, pointing out tips, tricks, and best practices. I'll touch on the original features we launched earlier this year, as well as many of the new enhancements we've made since then. Whether you've used Content Manager before or often or never, if this is new to you, hopefully we'll teach you something new and make you excited to join for your next employer roundup. So this is the homepage of one of our market sites, builtinchicago.com. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible to get into Content Manager, and really you'll see your company icon up here and be able to choose Content Manager right next to all of the other features that you're used to using. And when you click it here, it should log you right into the experience. No extra login required. It'll just simply use your built-in credentials and then be transported to your Content Manager market page. And if you do have more than one market, as long as you're set up with permission on all of those company profiles as a company admin, you'll have a drop down on top to switch between those really easily. So you can see in my kind of demo account here, I have one article already in progress in my custom content plan. So I can go in and edit, and we'll go through that in a moment, how to submit content. And then you can also see how many remaining employer roundups you have. So at any given time, you can go in, check, join, edit, submit content right within Content Manager all by yourself. One of my favorite parts is actually searching for new content. So since I have two to choose from, I'll go through some of those options. So in order to filter, we have just a plethora of options here to choose from. If I'm looking for maybe topics on company culture specifically, I can go in and see just our employer roundup opportunities within each month coming up. And as well as, let's say, women in tech or development. If I'm just focusing on developer and engineers, all of those different articles could be found here easily, and they're tagged nicely for you to participate. It's also organized by month. Here we're focusing on the estimated publication date, so you can basically plan on when this article will go live. If I'm looking in July, for example, I can easily filter and see all the July articles that I could join, and there are a lot to choose from, which is great. One other thing I just want to, actually two other things. One is favoriting. So you can see I've already gone in and starred a few of my favorite articles, and I can add one as well. And then when I'm done, I can simply click the favorites button. And this is just a good way to kind of keep a running list of the topic or the topics and or articles that I'm interested in. I know for me, there's so many options. I might see one or two that I like, not quite ready to pull the trigger yet, but at least it's starred so I can go back later. And to unfavorite, you simply click the button again. One of our newer enhancements is a way to export to PDF. So we heard some great feedback that, these lists are great. I like being able to favorite, but I really want to share this with my marketing team, or I want to share this with my CEO before I pull the trigger. So you can actually export to PDF, and I'll start by not including the expanded view just so I can show you what that looks like. And so here is a nice big long PDF. Obviously it's huge. Probably don't want to send that to someone unless they're really interested in a long read. So I'll go ahead and just filter by my favorites and export again. And the nice thing about this is whatever you have filtered will only show those articles. So here you go. There's a nice PDF downloaded, and you can send this to whoever you like. Maybe these are the 5 that you're choosing between, and you can easily get their input. If you choose expanded view, I'll quickly show you that. It gives you a lot more information that we'll go through in a second about what's in each article. So the article insights, recommended interviewees, and the interview questions that will actually be asked in the article. So previously, before Content Manager, a lot of times we would just send the article name, which is great, but it doesn't give you as much context as all of this. So we want to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into, and it's something that you want to participate in before we get too far. So I'm going to unfilter and go ahead and join an article just so you can see what that looks like. So you simply click join, and then it'll pop in on top into your custom content plan. And you can see now I only have one remaining employer roundup to go. So I'll go ahead and click through the edit flow. So at any point, once you join a roundup, you can edit, and you'll see all that great information that you already had in the expanded card view from the previous screen. You can see kind of what our content team is getting at and why do this article. You can see the recommended interviewee. So this looks like someone, maybe a CPO, a VP of sales, or director of engineering. So this one's pretty open-ended. And then we also want to make it as easy as possible to invite basically what I call a contributor. So someone who is going to fill out the questions. So really all roundups, you only need to interview one single person from your company. We know you all are busy, and it can be difficult to get responses as well as send out responses. So we added 2 different options here. One is to simply send an email. And so we already did some copy. If you want to, you can easily change all this or just edit part of it. There is a date section here. So if you do want to send it via this, I recommend just changing that date. And then you can send an email to yourself, and it will email out an invitation to contribute right from Content Manager. Another really cool way that we wanted to include was basically a shareable link. So if you want to invite someone via Slack, or you want to send a custom email through your own Outlook or a different email client, you can go ahead and just copy that link here. And then I'll open an incognito window just so that I'm not logged in, and I'll see the logged out view. And the great thing about this is when your contributor goes to fill out the questions, they don't need to create an account. They don't need to log into anything. They don't even need to log into Builtin. They can go right in, fill out all the fields required, and simply submit the content here. So I'm just going to very quickly, for sake of time, put in some dummy content. If they're not ready to submit it back to you, they can save their progress so that it's saved for later. And then they can also submit it for you. We have kind of a double click here just in case they don't submit it by accident. And this will actually trigger an email right back to you as the company admin who sent this to them that your participant has submitted their responses. So basically their job here is done. They might send you a Slack back or a message that they submitted their content. So I'll simply refresh this page to see what you would see as the company admin again. And here, obviously, I put in some dummy text, but you'd be able to see all their responses right here. And essentially give it the thumbs up. So we don't want your contributor to submit right to Builtin. We want them to submit to you. And then we want you to submit to Builtin. So all we ask is that you add at least one image, and then you can submit right to Builtin. And when you'll get a confirmation email that it's sent and a estimated publication date from the content team. It's really that easy. We try to make it as easy as possible. And again, if you don't end up using our invited coworker flows, you can copy and paste in the text from whatever Google Sheet or elsewhere. I also want to point out that it's kind of hidden in here. So I thought I'd point it out. You can cancel content. So if it's more than 2 weeks before your publication date, or submission date, which is even gives you a little bit longer time, you can go ahead and remove it yourself. So if you decide, you know what, I just joined this one, I think I'm going to remove it and pick a different one, or maybe you saw one that you like more, you can go ahead and remove it yourself, give a quick reason, and then you'll be removed from the roundup. Just that easy. And you'll get that slot back. You can see it went from 1 to 2 again. A few other last few things. So within the history section, this is brand new. So this just released a few weeks ago. It's kind of a V1, and I'm hoping we can add a lot more features to it. But it will be nice, so that you can see all of your published content in one place. You can have links directly to the articles that did publish, and you can even see the responses you sent in if you did send in your responses through Content Manager. If it was a really old article before Content Manager existed, you'd still be able to see some of the data, but you wouldn't be able to see the actual responses you sent in because they weren't in our database. So you'll still have a link to the article, but we do have some future ideas and plans to pump this up and give you even more information here. But it is a good one-stop shop to see really truly all of your content from our employer roundup content from Builtin. Cool. So I think we can pop back to the slides, and I can give you a quick preview of a feature I'm excited to give you a sneak peek on. So we're calling this the Content Planner, and the Content Planner will allow you to see all of the paid content you have as part of your Builtin partnership. It really isn't just employer roundups like it is today, but it really truly will be all content. And we'll let you plan out estimated publication dates for each, and then basically see them laid out in a 12-month calendar view at the top of the screen. And as well as provide clear to-dos and next steps and the dates that we need each completed by. And we're really invested in making this process as painless as possible for you all because we want all of our partners to complete their content and gain those great benefits that Ali talked about earlier and gain those results. So the content plan will guide you through scheduling, gathering responses, and submitting final content to Builtin. We'll of course have new reminders that send out to help we'll have basically new reminders to help you join and do other steps that we don't currently help with today, and when those need to be completed by with plenty of advance notice. And this also couples well with the content calendar that Ali mentioned that we now have within Content Manager, which is 6 full months of content which today is through the end of October, which should help you when you're planning out employer roundups and make it easier than ever. So you can browse and join employer roundups using that calendar within Content Manager today, the 6-month calendar, and then this feature will be coming in upcoming months.
So Jeff, two things that I'll gear towards you. One question was, do you have a requirements on response length of the responses they give?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do limit it within Content Manager. That it was a requirement from the content team, because if something's over what they're saying, 1,200 characters per question, it's basically they're going to have to chop it down, and they ideally don't want to have to do too much of that and kind of have to do that back and forth that involves. But I think they're generally looking for around 600 to 800 characters per question, but they're very flexible, and they do an awesome job of working with our customers. So I would, within those 1,200 characters per question, write the response that you feel is necessary for each question, and then the content team can work with you from there.
And then Jeff, the other question was, what happens if you pass the deadline and forget to cancel?
Great question. So the way that we've set Content Manager up is if you do pass your submission deadline, and I should mention there are 3 reminder emails. So we send a reminder email 2 weeks before your submission deadline, 1 week before, and then 3 days, just to make sure that it's coming up and you're not going to go past it by accident. After those emails go out and you pass the submission deadline date, it will say roundup blocked within Content Manager. You'll have 2 options at that point. You can cancel the roundup and find a different one, or reach out to your CSM or account manager, and they can work with you to either open that up and give you a extension if it's possible on that type of content, or again, help you find a new piece of content.
Alrighty, great. And so again, feel free. I don't see any other open questions. So I'm going to cover, again, thank you to the few people that had sent some questions ahead of time. So this is my favorite one. So what are some ways an employer can help boost the content being shared by Builtin? So this would be something to take notes on if you're not already. I have 5 things that our CSMs always recommend. So the first is sharing on LinkedIn. So with every roundup that you do with Builtin, you get social copy sentence as well as a custom image. So once you have that information, we would highly recommend that you work with your social media team to share on social channels, encourage employees and leadership to share that content as well. The second would be add to your careers page. So that helps give candidates insights into what your company really looks like. I think one of the biggest things we hear from what we hear from our users is that sometimes the content on third parties can look very different than how the company's representing themselves on their careers page. So how do you make sure you bring that over? Third, using third-party platforms. So for example, I've seen many examples where people on their LinkedIn Life tab or LinkedIn Life page want to showcase their engineers, but the links that they put to are very generic. Let's say an engineer landing page of their careers page, or a really outdated blog from their engineering team. And so when you showcase those teams, hyperlink those content so that it's a lot more relevant on third parties that you're using, and you want to have more of that targeted content. Last 2 things is sourcing. So some of the most successful customers will include content in their in-mails. So this is especially helpful for 2 types of customers. One, companies that have a very strong brand awareness, but maybe aren't known for the types of hires they need. So really strong consumer brand, maybe not necessarily first to think of as an engineering company that's hiring. Alternatively, on the full other side, a company that has a very lack of brand awareness, maybe is a little bit more of an unknown tech employer, or not as big as some of these big names, being able to put content in there to make sure they can build some awareness fast is great. And the last thing that also many customers do is interview template emails. So there's 2 ways that we've seen this work really well. The first would be in the auto response of your candidates as they apply for a job, and you're doing that auto response to say thank you, and you're considering their resume. In the meantime, please feel free to reference some of our recent news that Builtin covered, for example, or learn more about X team or our leader. The other example would be further along in the interview process for your recruiters to actually send that over to keep candidates warm, or prior to an interview to make sure they're the most educated candidate if they're interviewing with, let's say, someone that is in that article. So those are the high level. Your CSM, literally their focus is to be a product expert for you on how to leverage content, that if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to them too. So we'll move on to the next question. What resources do I have access to in between scheduled content? So I know I just mentioned your CSM and account manager can always help you strategize on content based off your upcoming hiring needs. Also, I know a lot of you, like by nature, we're not marketers and I'm not either. And so they're here to consult you, tell you what we're seeing in the market, tell you what users are interested in. So please use them. The two others would be, we do webinars that we do for all of our customers. So make sure that you are joining those, and we cover a lot of these topics. And then lastly would be our newsletter. So if you do not get our newsletter, we send it out twice a month. And a lot of times we put tips in there in regards to best practices, new ebooks. So if you are not getting those, please reach out to your contact here and we'll make sure you get those. Next question is, where can I see deeper insights on what users are searching for so I can create better aligned content? So really good question. We'll actually, I will drop this in the chat. The place you should go to is our content resource center on our website. So I'm actually going to put that into the chat right now. So that will cover a lot of our candidate insight report. So as we poll our users on a normal basis, that will gather insights into, for instance, what are the top perks they care about? What are their specific interests? So we'll have ebooks, insight reports there. So it's a really good place to start. As well as different toolkits. The last thing, it's not content related, but for those of you, a lot of people have been talking about needing insights into salary. So if you are not familiar, we also have salary gauges and averages throughout the entire tech ecosystem in all of our markets. That's on literally the toolbar of our homepage. So not content related, but another really good resource that you all can use because I know every platform is different with salary ranges, and ours is very unique to tech, which can be better aligned. And then, of course, continue to use your CSM and AM. I think that's it. So we'll pause for a second. Is there any other Q&A that we can help with? Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll take that silence as we covered everything. So good job, Jeff. In terms of next steps, we will be sending over an email that will recap this with the recording as well as the links that we just shared with you. When you can, we would really appreciate you giving us a feedback in regards to our event survey and how this conversation was, if it was helpful, what we missed. And then as always feel free to reach out to your customer success team here at Builtin if you have any questions. So that's all. I hope you all have a good rest of your week and thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.